Let me just introduce real quick. Justin Kron is right here, the co-creator. I did this with Todd Moorhead, which he's been at this for a bit, a friend from California way back. And then David Boskey, our friend from Israel, and currently here in Wilmore studying at Asbury. And you guys both bring such richness and depth to the conversation. So it's an honor to be here. Let's start with you, Justin. In all of this, you see, and you've been watching what's happening in Israel for years and years. You're a Messianic Jew, and so you've been part of this conversation for a long time. But what sparked, we need to tell this story?
Yeah, so when October 7th occurred, I thought it was like one of the many other uprisings in this conflict that had happened a few times prior to 2023 and after the disengagement in 2005, and that it would probably be one of these things that lasts a week or two, maybe a month, two at the most kind of thing, as we had seen it in the past, and then everything would just kind of go back to normal. And normal was always kind of like this, the status quo of, occasionally Hamas would attack, do something to, ruffle Israel's feathers. Israel would respond.
Another skirmish.
Yeah, another skirmish. That was the cycle. And of course, we discovered very quickly that this was different. That what had happened on October 7th was unlike anything that had happened in the past. I had a tour that was, scheduled to go 10 days later, like you, had to cancel that. And then, seeing all the images and the reports. And what was the most shocking, though, I don't know. I mean, it's what you see there is just incredibly shocking, but part of the film is you see the reaction from people around the world. And instead of going to the streets and condemning what Hamas did, they went out condemning Israel and supporting what Hamas did, excusing it, rationalizing, justifying, and in some cases celebrating what they did. And it wasn't just a few thousand, it was hundreds of thousands in major cities all over the world. And then this rewriting of history. In fact, on the day of October 7th, before the calendar turned to October 8th, you had 31 organizations at Harvard University that released a statement, signed a statement, blaming Israel for all of the violence on October 7th. Imagine that, Harvard. And so we knew very quickly that we had to pivot. We were in the midst of a docuseries that we were producing about the conflict, and that we had to change course with what we were going to cover. And so we decided a few months later that we had to go back, and we ended up doing that in May of 24.
David, I'm curious for you. Did you see the documentary before tonight? Was this your first time, and what's the perception sitting there?
No, I hadn't seen it. I thought about watching it beforehand, but I thought it would be more appropriate for it to be as genuine and raw as possible. And I mean, what can you say? I first of all, Justin, you did a phenomenal job. I think for many of us Israelis, we resonate with the sense of needing to process what happened. It was so raw and painful, and it hasn't really stopped since then. So you don't really have the chance to process and to grieve properly. I think that's why these people are doing what they're doing. So important. And so being able to see a film like this as an Israeli, you get to process through your emotions in a way that's needed, that many people I don't think are getting a chance to do. So I'm very grateful that you did this. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say too, just so that everyone understands more what David is saying, is that this wasn't just a one-day event that people then got through and then are in their healing process. This has been an ongoing trauma now for 2 years. I mean, there are still 48 hostages being held in captivity, 20 presumed alive. From the videos we've seen just a month or so ago, I mean, some of those hostages are being starved. I mean, they look like Holocaust, those who were in concentration camps in the Holocaust. I mean, so, and many Israelis, they have friends, sons, daughters who are serving in the IDF. And Israel wasn't prepared. It's never really, their army wasn't created for a war like this, to last for this length of time. And so it's a trauma that is impacting the country still each and every day.
Yeah, you know,
We need both. That one's not working.
okay. You know, we are 2 years past, and, you know, the wounds, you know, are just as prevalent today. And now all of a sudden in our contemporary society, we're in a ceasefire mode, and the peace plan that is out there. And I'm interested in what your thoughts are on what that peace plan looks like. Is it something that is really going to take place in terms of really finding a final peace? What's going to happen next?
Okay, so I mean, you use the term final peace. I mean, that's of course always the hope, right? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Okay, so I do believe that there will be a final peace in a day to come, and I think that will only occur when the Messiah returns. In the meantime, I think there's going to be these waves, peaks, valleys of a sort, where there might be kind of a lull, but it's eventually, there's going to be an uprising again. I am optimistic, hopeful, cautiously hopeful that the hostages will be returned soon in this proposed peace plan. That's supposed to be like phase 1 of it. And that eventually Hamas will be completely removed from power, although in their response to Trump's proposal, they said that they would still have a seat at the table in the new government, whatever that is. There's been nothing said in response to that. My guess is that Trump and probably Netanyahu too, they'll probably say, well, we'll see about that, you know. Because there can be no peace whatsoever if Hamas or other militias, other factions, Islamic factions, are in power whatsoever, because their objective, as we all know, is to wipe Israel off the face of the map. So hopefully we will get to a lull here, kind of a so-called season of peace, so that we don't have to continue the current war that is they're in.
Yeah, I have a hard time that they even have a seat at the table, even right now. You know, David, what do you think about that as an Israeli? How does that solve a problem here?
There's a famous saying, I think it was Luther who said it, that history is like a drunk man who falls off his horse, gets back on and falls off the other side. And you know, I served in the military between March of 2005 to March of 2008. So the disengagement that you guys saw in the film I was in the Army during that time, and it tore the country apart in a way that I haven't seen probably since the conflict that was happening internally in Israel right before October 7th. I think it was 2006, there was this whole thing that they referenced with Gilad Shalit, where this soldier was kidnapped. He was held in Gaza for quite a while, and then he was returned for something like 1,000 people. And among those people was Yahya Sinwar, who became kind of the military head of Hamas. So as an Israeli, you're in an impossible situation where on the one hand, you would do anything to get the hostages back, anything. And on the other hand, you know that what is part of this deal is potentially releasing hundreds of people. And we know what happened last time that happened. We got the leadership of Hamas that executed October 7th. So it's a lose-lose to me in a certain sense. And it's really, there's no silver lining. I think for Israelis, they're willing to do anything. They've shown that they're willing to do anything. I'm torn because I think without an acknowledgement that we're dealing with a spiritual war, nothing is ever going to be really approached from the right perspective, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. That shortly after October 7th, the international community, including our own administration here in the U.S., was pressuring Israel regarding a two-state plan, right? In a sense, rewarding Hamas for what they did on October 7th. And that's still happening in the international community. Even this current plan that is on the table is really about in fact, it says one of the points, the 21 points, is about a pathway towards a two-state plan. Well, what have we seen in the past when Israel has withdrawn from the Palestinian territories? What happened after 2005? What happened when Israel withdrew from Lebanon in 2006? They got Hezbollah coming in and attacking Israel. And now they want to do that in the West Bank. Well, what do we expect to happen if they were to withdraw from the West Bank? I mean, we have seen the cycle. We've seen the pattern. And so it's so irrational to me that would even be discussed. But this is what we're seeing. So,
it's interesting because we were talking earlier about the fact that David Ben-Gurion was the first prime minister of Israel, and he came to a conclusion all the way back in 1948 when Israel's first formed as a nation again, that the victory that takes place has to be definitive. I'm interested because there's a lot of talk on both sides of that. And, what do both of you think on that, David? What's, your thought, in fact, about this has to be taken care of ultimately with a decisive, victory on Israel's part?
Yeah, it's like they say you can't put a Band-Aid on cancer. You have to remove it at its core. I've lived in Israel my whole life, and I've seen terrorism. It's kind of a daily reality that we live under. But I look at the images that Justin showed in the film of the indoctrination of these children. And the children who executed October 7th were kids when we pulled out of Gaza. They were children. And I know that if there's not the term I've heard often is a denazification of the populace, in 15 years, 20 years, you're going to have the same people being indoctrinated in the same thing. If you don't root that out, it's inevitable, because if you're willing to die and you're willing to kill, and there's really no guard against that. That's why we had suicide bombers during the Second Intifada. To get to the point where you're willing to sacrifice your life, there has to be a purging of this ideology, and that can't happen if we just go back to business as usual and we get our hostages out but leave the poison infecting the minds of the children there. I feel for the children. They're going to be raised to be they're going to idolize their brothers and their uncles and their fathers to do the same things and to have their own moment in the spotlight.
yeah.
I was just thinking, you called this October 7th bearing witness to the massacre. I grew up hearing about this idea of Holocaust deniers, and we immediately, now have October 7th deniers. And what I felt watching this again was, number one, I felt just incredible sadness for those of you who had to go through hours and hours and hours of watching footage and death and destruction, and how much gets left on the cutting room floor that you can't show. It's too gruesome. Where do you cut it off? It's heavy, right? But the other thing that hit me was, aside from the interviews and the beautiful drone shots over Israel, is most of that footage came from the terrorists themselves. They are the ones that bore witness to their own evil. It wasn't like Israelis were capturing all of this on their phone. But that idea of bearing witness carries a heavy weight to it. What is that process like? And how did you decide how to tell that story, what to put in, what to leave out? There's 1,000 questions in there. You can pick one and work your way out of it.
So Jesse Schluntz, who's our director and editor, and just an amazing filmmaker and storyteller. Most of those decisions are his. He does, when he's in that process, he runs that by Todd and me. Todd really likes to keep himself out of that. He has a really hard time watching that. In fact, at screenings that he attends, he will step out of the theater and he won't watch that second half of the film. Jesse did have me go through a lot of the Telegram pages where a lot of this footage is still there. If you don't want to do that, but so I would go through looking for certain things to say, Jesse, you might want to use this kind of thing. So, and he would then kind of decide how to put it in. But you almost have to just turn your heart off. It's a kind of a weird thing. But I'll tell you, when I'm sitting here, like tonight, every screening that I'm in, they each hit me a little bit differently. Sometimes it's just extreme sadness. Sometimes it's like anger, like really angry. Sometimes it's weight going between both. And I could say tonight I was going back and forth with both. It's hard to just reconcile. It's hard to process what I can tell you and what I saw immediately. And I before I had even seen as much footage as I had just being there in these places, it was just this overwhelming sense that, wow, like evil is real. It's not just this concept or a word that we like just throw around occasionally. Like, it's real. It's present. And there is a massive, I cannot underestimate this or understate this is the better way to say it, the depth of the depravity of man and the spiritual war that's being fought in real time. Listen, I've come to this conclusion, and it's not hard to come to if you read the Bible. Whatever God is for, you can be certain that the enemy will rage against it. Whatever God has created to bring glory to himself, you can be certain that the enemy is going to rage against it. He'll do everything to kill, to steal, and destroy. And God is for the nation of Israel. This does not mean that God agrees with every decision that every Israeli makes or that the government makes, but as far as the existence of Israel, he is for it. He made promises that he would bring the people of Israel back to their ancestral homeland, that they would forever be a nation before him. And so if we know that to be true, we should not be surprised that the enemy is going to do everything he can to undermine it. And I have seen it, I've felt it, and I believe it.
David, one of the things that surprised me right after October 7th was not the number of Israelis trying to get out of Israel. It was the number of Israelis trying to get back in. You were here on October 7th. What was that like for you, your family? Avner and Rachel are in Beersheba. We've had him on our podcast, and he would say they're 90 seconds from missiles, rockets coming from Gaza. What's the helpless? I mean, I'm sure helpless is the feeling being here, but what do you know about the Israeli spirit that all of a sudden planes full of El Al. These El Al planes are full of Israelis from all over the world, wherever they're at, to get back home so that they can defend their country.
Yeah, we had similar considerations when everything went down. We had just gotten to Kentucky. We had just started this PhD program, and within maybe not even a month, this happens. And it was such a gut punch, and we immediately thought, well, we have to go back. Like, wait, what are we doing here? Like, we have to go back. My friends are going in. Many of them are still in. How can I stay here while they're there? We had felt very strongly from the Lord that he had called us to here for the season to do a specific type of training. We hope to go back and train Israeli believers in the scriptures, teach them the word of God, give them a spiritual weapon in their hands. And we felt God say, listen, there are many going back. I've called you to train here. I want you to stay. And it's been a very difficult reality. But I actually saw the other day, I don't know if it was like a TikTok or something, but there was a guy who was talking about the resolve of Israeli youth. And there was a survey that was taken. And the question they asked was, if you heard about Jewish people in some far-flung corner of the earth and you heard that they were under attack, what would you do? And over 90% of Israeli young people said, we're getting on a plane, we're going wherever they are. We'll go to anywhere in the world to make sure that Jewish people are saved. And I think that is a testimony. There's a desperation that exists when, we have this song, En li eretz acheret, I have no other land. Where am I going to go? These are my people. There's a strong, obviously all of us here on the stage, we're Jewish. We are family. And I think anyone, if they know their family is at risk, they're going to do whatever it takes. When there's a disconnect that, that's some conflict in a faraway country, I can detach myself. But when you know that it's your family, your flesh and blood, you're going to do whatever it takes. And so I was not surprised in the slightest that people dropped everything and went back to serve. And many of them are still there. My friends are still there. I know that people have resolve to want to make sure that their families are safe, and they'll do whatever it takes.
This is not the first time I've seen this. And yet it has an impact every time I do see it, and it is just horrendous what took place on that day. The world changed on that day, and the mark of that is not just on October 7th, but how could everything be so organized the next day on October 8th? To come out on campuses across the United States and in Australia and in England and other countries and have a rising against Israel as if they caused the atrocity. It seems like, given the times that we're living in, and that's what I'm interested in, hearing comments from you guys about is, it seems like we're trending, I believe we're in the last days, but it seems like this is yet another trend toward that final.
In a significant step towards that ultimate day when all the nations of the earth will be gathered against Jerusalem. Just look at the number of those who walked out of Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech at the UN. Just a week and a half ago. Over 140, I believe, walked out.
They aren't the United Nations. They're just united against Israel, right?
Very good point. And so, we've been seeing this cycle really pick up speed over the last 10 to 15 years. There's groups on many college campuses. Thankfully, there's not one at the University of Kentucky called Students for Justice for Palestine. But those groups are on college campuses all over the country, and they've been receiving funding, and a lot of that funding comes from Qatar. Okay, infiltrating, Qatar sponsoring programs like Islamic study programs at various universities. And so this indoctrination of the idea that Israel is a foreign colonization movement that came in and took the land of the Palestinians, et cetera, that has been pumped into the hearts and minds of young people now for at least the last 2 decades. And so this is what we saw. The reaction to October 7 is really just a manifestation of that ideology.
And that was Hitler's
Yep, he did the same
MO,
thing.
get the youth, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Let's take a second. Are there a couple of you that might have a question? And my wife, Marilee, is there, and she has a microphone, and you just raise your hand, and she'll come to you, and you can ask. I would prefer one of these guys because this is a special honor for us to be able to have them with us. Yeah. So let me repeat the question to you. Just so the soul of the Jewish people, because there are efforts towards healing. What is and Israel is largely secular, right? So what is the viewpoint? And well, I'd say either one of you guys, both of you should answer.
Yeah, I thought it'd be probably best for David as the Israeli to answer that question.
That's a great question. I appreciate the heart to want to know, to kind of put your finger on the pulse of the people. I remember when I was doing my master's at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, I took a course on Messianism and the Holocaust. How did people understand the concept of the Messiah while they were going through the Holocaust? And you get every possible view. This is judgment. This is the footsteps of the Messiah. He's coming around the corner. God is, he's purifying us, or he's judging us. You had every possible. So I would never want to paint with a broad brush that everyone feels the same way. I will say what I really liked about the film is giving the context, because we had there was a huge turmoil. My wife and I, we were living in Jerusalem, and every day almost there were protests. There was a rift, a national rift happening with the people. And as soon as October 7th happened, a huge amount of that kind of evaporated, and it brought a certain national unity that I think woke the people up to say, listen, we have to be unified as a people. My experience throughout the many years of living in Israel, the many conflicts that we've gone through, almost without fail, when conflict comes, it does soften people. I mean, the whole film is full of interviews of people who are at their lowest point, and they're looking for community, and they're looking for hope, and they're looking for truth. And that's been true for years. It's been true probably throughout the history of the Jewish people, that when conflict comes, there is an openness, there is a vulnerability, there is a desire for stability, internal stability. So my experience and the stories I've heard from people, first of all, is that they're traumatized. And like we talked about, the trauma is still ongoing. But I also know that with the trauma comes an openness and a willingness to hear hope, because that's what a lot of people are grasping for. So I would say that good things are happening. Yeshua, Jesus, needs to be preached. That's the only solution. And I believe that is what is going to bring a lasting peace. So my hope is not just, listen, there's Jewish people all over America who are also reeling. Just because I'm an Israeli doesn't mean that these three guys were not deeply impacted by what happened. And there are Jewish people all over America who are in need of just as much hope. And many of them are perceptive to the gospel from what I've seen.
Yeah, I would say even when we were in Israel this summer, there is a thankfulness that Americans would show up, that believers would show up. When 200 ballistic missiles are coming from Iran, the number one search on Google that evening in Israel is the word Tehillim. It means the Psalms. I think that we've heard a return to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and not necessarily Yeshua. And that's the hope. That's what we're all longing for. Other questions? I saw a couple of hands out there. What is the common person just living in central Kentucky, other than being a keyboard warrior and arguing with people on Facebook, which is a losing battle, so that leads nowhere, unfortunately. But what do we do to be able to, in one of our callings, our mission is to be a light, to be a voice, and to be a blessing. The fact that you showed up here is being a light and being a voice and being a blessing. I want to hear from you.
Yeah. So what can you do? So first, I want to encourage you, pray. Pray for the peace of Israel. Pray for Israel's enemies. Pray that they come to know Messiah as Lord. Pray for Israel as well in that regard. So pray. Second, make sure that you get good information about what's happening there, because the enemy works through bad information to get to your heart and your mind. So make sure you're following the right sources. I would recommend JNS, the Jewish News Syndicate. I would recommend All Israel News, which is run by Joel Rosenberg. Okay, sources like that are on you might have seen at the end of the film, Continue Your Journey, hopeintheholyland.com. That's our previous film, but on that website is a resource page. There are other films that I think you should watch. Here's the other very important thing. This war is being fought on social media. Now, you may not want to get on there to fight with some of those people like I do, okay? But you probably have children, or can't quite tell your age, maybe some grandchildren too. They need to be following the right people who are going to be giving them the truth. And there are many people on social media who are doing that and doing it brilliantly, okay? We've listed all of the ones that we recommend that your kids and grandkids should be following on the Hope in the Holy Land website. And so I think that's what you need to do. Lastly, I would say this. It's not hard to recommend a film to your neighbor. It's one of the easiest things you can do. So recommend this film, recommend Hope in the Holy Land, recommend some of the others that have been produced. Don't be shy. Because if you don't educate them, I can guarantee you somebody else will. And let me just say this about churches. If churches don't disciple the culture on this subject, then the culture is going to disciple the culture. The enemy will disciple the culture. And so whatever church you're a part of, encourage your pastor. Read this, watch this, teach this. We need to be courageous, just like the Bonhoeffer quote, right? God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act. So we need to be speaking, we need to be acting.
Totally agree. And there are exactly 3 Messianic Jews here in central Kentucky. And you can call us at any time. You got us, we got David Boskey and family, we got Joshua Roberts right here. And so there's 3 of us for 400,000 people, and we're up for the task. Happy to do that. Let's take one more question, and then we will wrap.
Before you ask that question, let me just say this. This is a resource. These guys are resources to you. What they chose to do tonight, Jewish Road sponsoring this screening, we need 1,000 more of these guys doing what they're doing, 10,000 more. So plug in with what they're doing, support what they're doing. I mean, in a certain sense, it shouldn't be, but in this day and age, it's courageous to plan an event like this. Did you see the security out here tonight that needs to be at something like this? This is the United States of America. But yet that's what we need to have in order to do this. But that's what's required right now. So support those who are doing it, follow their example. And yeah, I mean, I just can't say enough. Thank you for what you did. And I'm so glad that I could be here with you tonight.
Yeah, we agree. Thank you. What ministry or organization is zoned in on the next generation? Along the lines, I would say too, we've spent some time asking people, we're not going to get out of this problem by just shooting our way out of it and just killing enough people that we will kill the problem. This is an ideology, and it's more than even just killing an ideology. This is a spiritual battle. Are you guys aware, though, of any ministries or organizations, like who's doing that? Did I capture that all right? Close enough? All right.
I mean, as far as deprogramming people, I don't know of any who are deprogramming people. I kind of get this sense once they've been programmed, they're kind of lost forever. So that's why it's so important that you get to the adults within a society so that they then start educating the youth from age 0 up. Okay, so there are organizations who are providing tremendous resources when it comes to the subject of Israel, both in the Christian world and in the Jewish world. And so I would recommend plugging in with those as best as you can. Yeah, I think that's, and again, Jewish Road is one of those.
And tell us, we got to show this tonight. You're going to be on the road. Todd is on the road as well, and there's going to be some more screenings. But when you said you can share this video, it's now streaming everywhere. How do people get that, and how do we share that?
Yeah, so it's on several streaming platforms. Here in the United States, Prime Video is the most popular. After that would be Apple TV, and then you've got YouTube Movies, Google Play, and then there's a conservative Christian network, streaming network called Salem Now. And some of those platforms that I just mentioned are available worldwide, except for this, I should say some of them are. The only one that reaches pretty much almost every country would be the Salem Now platform, which is again a conservative Christian platform, and they are hosted on an unrestricted site. So some of the other bigger names like the Apple TV and Prime Video can be very hard to get in other foreign countries. And so kudos to, again, the conservative Christian platform for making sure that it can be accessed almost anywhere. But go to October7film.com if you want to get access to all those different platforms.
And this was officially released streaming on Friday.
Yeah,
and
so just a few days ago.
How's it doing? What's the reception been?
It has far exceeded our expectations. So just to give you a sense as to kind of how things have gone. So Hope in the Holy Land, that released in May of 21, which won several awards, by the way. In fact, it won like the Gold Crown Award, which is considered to be the Golden Globe Award in the Christian film industry. So it won that award, and it's been out now for 4.5 years. In 4 days of the October 7 film, the sales of October 7 have almost matched the sales of Hope in the Holy Land.
Praise the Lord.
4 days, 4.5 years. And we're getting several people around the world who are reaching out to us, including Israelis, who are thanking us for telling their story.
So supporting this is not only getting the message out, but it's also helping to fund more projects and more messaging to get that out there. We're going to wrap right here. But David, I want to end with you. You wrote like 40 pages of brilliance just on Matthew 25. And it was so deep that I didn't understand half of it. But this is the question of what does the church do? And your interpretation of Jesus is saying in the last days, he's going to separate the sheep and the goats. But what is the call for the church in these last days as we go out?
Yeah, it's a little sneak peek to my eventual dissertation, hopefully. There's a really, it's funny how profound this prophetic word is. I'm actually seeing it all over the place with social media, talking about social justice and all these different things. Matthew 25 has become a really popular passage now because it talks about making sure that you go to the least of these, my brothers, is what it says, right? There's this beautiful prophecy of God coming and gathering the nations together and separating them based on how they treated what it says is the least of these, my brothers. And my argument has been that this is an end times picture in perfect alignment with both Joel 3 and Zechariah 14 that talks about God saying, inasmuch as you treated my people, the Jewish people, a certain way, did you love them? Did you visit them? Did you clothe them when they were naked? I would say, did you advocate for them when the world was coming against them? That is going to be the standard by which I take that personally. You know, God talks about Israel as being the apple of his eye. And if you poke the apple of his eye, he takes that very personally. The scriptures are full of texts that elaborate on the love and the passion that God feels for his people. I think to me what has been by far the most disconcerting development over the past 2 years is not what I'm seeing in Gaza, it's not what I see in Iran, it's not what I see on college campuses. None of that surprised me. I think what was most difficult was so much of the silence I felt from the church, and still reeling from that in a very real way, because I feel like the purposes of God for the redemption of the world involve the church loving Israel into their relationship with their Messiah. And whatever, just like Justin was saying, whatever the enemy can do to thwart that beautiful, mutually beneficial relationship between the church and Israel, he's going to do. And it would break my heart to see that strategy thrive. So I would encourage the same things that they're saying. I would hope that churches all over Kentucky would be willing to stand in the gap, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer was willing to lay down his life for these things. We're going to need a lot of Dietrich Bonhoeffers, and I think that is going to be a huge litmus test for how close we are to the heart of God, as how much we love his people.
Amen.
Amen.
Let me just close this in prayer. Do you want to close out with something? Did you have something? Okay.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Would you just join us? So, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, thank you for the telling of this story. And you look over the span of history, going back from the very beginnings with Abraham until future glory in the kingdom with you. This is a small but painful and difficult blip on the radar in terms of what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will do again. God, I'm thankful for Todd and Justin to be able to take not only the investment of time and money, resources, and just heartache to be able to get this message out. Lord, I pray that it would not only reach central Kentucky and the four corners of Kentucky, but it would expand and use and leverage technology that it might reach the ends of the earth, that you might call people back to yourself, that you would bring the Jewish people to yourself, that you would bring the Muslims to yourself, that you would show up and that you would do your will here on earth and help us to be faithful followers and faithful witnesses until that day comes. So we're thankful for this time together. And all God's people said, amen and amen. Thank you so much for coming out here. We appreciate you guys.